so from the Circuit De Barcelona-Catalunya, obviously, the round 9 of the 2025 Formula 1 World Championship. Obviously, it is the start of the second third of the season. It is the final round of that second triple header of the season. Welcome here to the home of the FC Barcelona champions. Of course, the best football club in the world. All the players were in attendance. Anybody in Barcelona witnessed this really cracking race, which was spiced up, especially for the final 10 laps with that safety car, obviously triggered by now the most unlucky driver of this European triple header of the season, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, obviously, whose Mercedes-Benz expired, and it definitely could have almost led to a Ferrari victory. So over here in this exclusive race reaction, over here we will tell you everything about the race and why I believe we, and especially Charles Leclerc, could have been celebrating with the Formula 1 Grand Prix with the trophy, obviously being designed in that track. Designed in the way of the track layout, which you can, by the way, see on this beautiful calendar right up there behind me. So we will tell you exactly everything about the race over here. Again, the result is not really disappointing because we've achieved our target, which is to leave, the second triple header of the season and the first leg of the European season being second in the championship, and now we pretty much have 15 races to chase down the orange McLarens as the Scarlet and Ferrari are getting faster and faster, right? Of course. So we will tell you how Charles Leclerc, especially, and Lewis Hamilton did a great job with the SF1000T818 Formula 1 Racing Simulator, and then we will show it to you over here on that Red Retina iMac. We will show you the race result, and also we will take a look at the drivers and the constructor standings. And there were lots of fireworks happening in Barcelona. What could be, hopefully not, but what really could be the penultimate race at the circuit built obviously for the 1992 Olympics. Already from the practice we knew that our race pace was strong, but the qualifying was a little bit disappointing, even though heading into Q3 when Lewis Hamilton put it on a third on the grid. I was really excited because that would have given us a pretty good chance to probably be second or even first heading into turn 1, and that could have been crucial because just like the championship leader Oscar Piastri says, the clean air is the king, and it helps out a lot, especially the McLarens, right? So it was very important that they do not, for example, put it on the front row or lock out the front row, but sadly they did for the first time since 1998, and we had to contend with starting from 5th, as obviously Hamilton was sadly beat by Russell and Verstappen, and Charles Leclerc made a very interesting choice. So normally the tire allocation, when I'm racing in, and obviously on this wonderful YouTube channel, you can always see concurrently how I'm racing, even though obviously 2024 season, the round 9 was Canada, it wasn't Spain, so they will be basically switched. But here the tire allocation is quite important because normally if you have a one-stop race, it kind of doesn't really matter what tires you choose because usually go medium hard, right? And these are the tires that basically every driver gets obviously for the race, right? Because you have 13 sets, you use 6 in practice, and you have 3 different choices. You can go, for example, for balance, harder or softer compounds, and then for qualifying you don't have 5 because the final 2, the medium and the hard, are always reserved for the race, right? So it is very important, depending on which allocation you choose, that you either have 5 soft set of tires, or you have 4 sets of soft tires and 1 set of the yellow medium tires, or again 4 sets of the soft tires and 1 set of the hard tire, which normally nobody would really pick, right? But what Leclerc did over here was that he decided to go 4 red sets, so 4 soft tires, and then having the 1 medium set of the tires. And this is sometimes what I will pick as well. I do like this balance quite a lot, but it is obviously then imperative that you do save some tires during the qualifying, which is why. You might have been wondering why didn't Charles Leclerc, when he was doing so well in qualifying, being basically, on the provisional, I believe, third or fourth place, why didn't he go for that second run, which could have, for example, yielded him the third place on the grid, right? It was because he wanted to save that set of the soft tires for the race, and it really did pay the dividend. Once the 5 red lights, went out very quickly in this beautiful Mediterranean sunshine, obviously, as the summer 2025 is quickly approaching. It really felt like summer with very high track temperatures, and yeah, great start by both Ferraris, especially by Leclerc, who pretty much, by the time we got to third, fourth, fifth gear, he was right alongside of Lewis Hamilton, and obviously, with Antonelli, having, hardly any space there to the right, I was, pretty pleased that we were 5th and 6th, that we were making up the ground. It was even better when Hamilton, holding that outside line, managed to jump the Russell, who was basically pinned to that apex of that first corner, which obviously means that you have to go to 4th, 3rd gear, and obviously lose a lot of the time. Same thing happened to Norris as championship leader. Piastri obviously, went searching for his 5th win of the season. Look at that. So, Verstappen and Hamilton made up the places on the outside there. So we were running 4th and 6th. Then Russell, he made a bit of a mistake, I believe, going into turn 5 over there. So immediately we were 4th and 5th. And I was like, well, this is a great start, right? Because from 5th and 7th we were 4th and 5th, and already, if you would look at how many points we would be scoring, that would be good enough to set us for the 2nd place. So pretty much right from lap 1 of this FC Football Club Barcelona Grand Prix, should we call it, instead of the Spanish Grand Prix, but hey, that will be obviously happening in Madrid next year, sadly, but yeah, what can we do about it? Yeah, we've already met our objective, but the positive thing was that actually Leclerc was able to keep up with Norris, right? But that only happened after he dispatched Lewis Hamilton. So Hamilton running 4th, Leclerc running 5th, very quickly within 3 or 5 laps, because Leclerc obviously started on that spanking brand new set of the soft tires, even though they were not completely new, because remember in the Q2 there was a danger that Hamilton, he didn't go out for the final run, but Leclerc, he did, but then he saw that he was safe, so he only did the out lap and pretty much then the in lap, because he knew that he was okay, he was through. So the tires were really only used a little bit. So he was definitely on the pace. It took a while, but yeah, they had to tell Lewis Hamilton to obviously swap the position. So I think that is one of the reasons why Lewis was maybe having a bit of a tear here and there in the corner of his eyes, because obviously he was searching for a podium, and it didn't help that Leclerc obviously overtook him. And Leclerc was able to keep up with Norris, and we then stopped relatively early, to make sure that we can, for example, undercut, and I thought it worked pretty well, because then we were suddenly just within 3 seconds of Norris after the first stop, and Leclerc then had a 2 fresh set of the medium tires left, which Hamilton only had 1, of course, right? So you could see that immediate pace. The second stint, we were the fastest. It was great to see, Leclerc again, going from Monaco, going over here for the podium. You could see Verstappen with the Red Bull faltering. They had a very high tire degradation, so they went for 3 stops, and everybody was like, okay, they will be out of it. But because Verstappen's pace was actually really good, much better than we expected. So he actually, then overtook us, which was a bit painful, and went basically chasing after the McLarens, and went even into the lead for a while. So obviously McLarens were also worried, but for us the real worry was that once we then switched around lap 41, and then with Hamilton obviously lap 42, when we switched for the tires. For that final stint, one of the issues was obviously that we then basically fell, too far back, and weren't then able to recover, well enough, right? And you could see, especially, for that final stint, that Leclerc was actually losing lots of pace, with Verstappen really challenging, the McLarens there. So thankfully, after the race, Leclerc said that he kind of knew what was happening, because at the beginning of the race, we were the fastest, and it looked like we could have scored unlucky, or not unlucky, of course, very lucky, but very a fantastic, legendary victory, maybe a bit unexpected, I should say, obviously with that pace, it wasn't that great, towards the end of the stints. And Ferrari, I think, missed the opportunity when Russell was within, 1.5, 2 seconds behind. He actually has got an undercut switch to the soft tires. That was a bit of a surprise. So Leclerc did soft, medium, Hamilton did soft, medium, and then soft again, but didn't really have a fresh set of soft tires, left over there. So what happened was that Russell, by simply stopping earlier, was then able to go roughly 2 seconds a lap quicker position than us. So, we obviously, stayed, I think 4 or 5 laps longer, but by the time, Hamilton found himself almost 10 seconds behind, Russell. So that was really disappointing because, that was really our position. Yeah, it's something that we have to look at, right? So the strategy was very, very important. So basically then heading into that final stint, you could see, that it was kind of converging, at the top, obviously, Piastri was maybe saving the tires a bit more, Norris, Verstappen especially pushing them very, very hard, but, Leclerc kind of dropping back, right? And Russell being in 5th, Hamilton in 6th, relatively safe from Antonelli, who was, about a quarter of a minute, down the road, and then it happened, the Mercedes power unit, just like Alonso's in Monaco, it just exploded, right? So, going into that turn 10, that reprofile turn, and not definitely my favorite, as you will see, in that race when it is released, that almost cost me the victory, or should I say, maybe, the fight for a victory. Well, you will see. I definitely don't want to give that away, but yeah, Antonelli then just simply retired, but because obviously he stopped in the gravel, the safety car came out, and everybody changed for the soft set of tires, and that's when the fireworks really started, because Verstappen, for whatever reason, Red Bull made a huge strategic mistake by putting him on the fresh set of hard tires, right? Remember what happened in on the Yas Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi? Exactly, so basically the same situation, but at least his hard tires were new, where Hamilton's in that 2021, that legendary title, decided obviously he had the old, hards against the fresh soft. So we were like, okay, he has no chance. Nico Rosberg, obviously the 2016 champion, was commenting that it was a strategic blunder by Red Bull. Proved to be the case when with 6 laps to go, the cars were released. Verstappen got a massive amount of oversteer, coming out of the final corner, almost crashed. Leclerc was immediately behind him, overtook him. They did touch, on the main straight. I do believe, that Verstappen, simply was defending much too hard. And then, Russell came in flying behind Leclerc, pushed, Verstappen out. So definitely Russell's fault. But very surprisingly, the Red Bull's engineer asked him, so the champion Olambiase asked him, the GP, so to go, Verstappen, hey, you gotta give the position to Russell, which really set him off, because obviously, making a mistake, having the wrong tires, and, then, pretty much being pushed off and then being told to give the position. So he simply ran into Russell, clearly on purpose, got a 10-second penalty, which was great for Hamilton, as he could then make up the place. But what a behavior. If you compare it to how Hamilton lost the record-breaking, potentially, of course, 8th world title, and how magnanimous, right, as Rob Smedley, the famous race engineer, most lately of Ferrari, and Felipe Massa said, how he was in a loss. You can see that Verstappen completely exploded. I believe that's probably the end of his title hopes. Hopefully not of our hopes though, because Leclerc did very, very well to keep on to the 3rd place. And then with Hamilton, you will think, well, okay, if Verstappen has a penalty, try to push Russell. Sadly, we were overtaken by the charging Hülkenberg of Sauber, over there, who obviously had lots of fresh sets of tires. So that's one of the reasons why he very surprisingly was able to overtake us. And, Hamilton finished 6th. But yeah, these fireworks, that was really, really exciting, obviously, and yeah, you could see, lots of unsportsmanlike behavior. Thankfully, no damage to the Charles Leclerc's Ferrari car, but Russell was carrying the damage. And, this is in the end how the race finished. So, we were laughing a lot, because obviously, you can see, people never change, right? If you were crazy like a teenage, taking Ferraris and other cars out, crashing into them 10 years old, even when you are a 4-time champion, you still like that. And, that's why I believe it's a real pity that we are supposed to have such drivers as role models. Are you sure? So over here, everybody, let's take a look how the race finished. So here you can see, Piastri obviously winning here. for McLaren from second place Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc finished 10 seconds down the road, but yeah, it was pretty much assured. Once Russell and Verstappen shenanigans, happened, that he would finish third. George Russell fourth. That's really where Hamilton should have finished. So we gotta look at the strategy, and especially why we lost so much pace in the final stint. Huge surprise, fifth, Nico Hülkenberg for Sauber. Basically, the fresh tires put him ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who defended very well, in that final stint, but we really should have been third and fourth. But thankfully, in the championship, we met our objectives. 7 is then Isaac Hadjar, another huge result for Racing Bulls. 8 Pierre Gasly, scoring points again for Alpine. 9 Fernando Alonso, his first points over here for Aston Martin. And 10 is then the Spanish 4-time champion, or should he really be called the champion, Verstappen, who did lots of the shenanigans there. So let's take a look at the standings. So over here, okay, we can definitely see the Drivers' Championship. So Oscar Piastri extends his lead to 186 points. Second is Lando Norris, 176 points. He was no match for his teammate, here at the Circuit De Barcelona-Catalunya. Third, Max Verstappen, 137 points. And yeah, that pretty much means that he's almost 50 points behind. He definitely won't be leading, after, he leaves the Red Bull ring. So, something to think about. George Russell is fourth with 111 points, and Charles Leclerc fifth. So, the great set of results over here, and the constant finishing positions on the podium, second, third, 94 points. So, we are very close to Russell. And next race in Canada, we will see. Hopefully, we can turn it around there. Our bad luck, we can definitely hope that Leclerc could challenge Russell for fourth place, and Lewis Hamilton 671 points. Pretty sure you can have a much better race in Canada, and obviously also start closing the gap. But fifth and sixth is what we expected where we would be. And now Hamilton has a really good cushion of almost one race victory, 23 points to Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who didn't score any points in this European triple header. He's on 48 points. Alexander Albon, of course, 42 points. Definitely not his teammate, the former Ferrari driver Carlos Sainz. 9 Isaac Hadjar, 21 points. He is knocking on the Red Bull seat with these performances. 10 Esteban Ocon, 20 points. 11 Nico Hülkenberg, 16 points, scoring really well here for Kick Sauber. 10 points here from Barcelona. 12 Lance Stroll, 14 points. So he did not start because obviously of the recurring wrist injury from that bike crash, just like my great cousin David had. So it will be interesting to see if he can recover for his home race. 13 Carlos Sainz, 12 points, 14 Pierre Gasly, 11 points, 15 Yuki Tsunoda, who didn't score 10 points only for Red Bull. 16 Oliver Berman, 6 points, 17 Liam Lawson, 4 points, and 18 Fernando Alonso. Finally his first 2 points at his home Grand Prix. He's got the first 2 points. 19 Gabriel Bortoleto, 0 points, almost got off the mark as well. And the 2 guys competing for the second Alpine seat, 20th Jack Doohan, 0 points, 21st Franco Colapinto, 0 points. This is how it looks like in the Drivers' Championship. So we can be very, very pleased, about that. I'm pretty happy that we are basically making some real progress, but especially in the Formula 1 Constructors Championship for the 2025 season. So McLaren is still leading 362 points, but now look who's second. Scuderia Ferrari. Let's go Ferrari, 165 points. Yes. So this is exactly what we wanted to achieve. So I'm really happy about it. And now we will have obviously week off, then Canadian Grand Prix week off. So the Canadian Grand Prix is a bit of an outlier, very low downforce circuit. So hopefully we will be very competitive there, just like in Imola, and bring lots of upgrades. So from Austria on, we can be very strong on any type of track and start chasing down the McLarens. That would be great because we hardly have half of their points. And now we are leaving third, Mercedes 159 points in their back, and fourth Red Bull with 144 points, really disappearing from any sort of fight for the top 3 in the Constructors Championship. Fifth Williams, 54 points. 6 Racing Bulls, 28 points. Isaac Hadjar is really pushing them towards the territories they haven't seen for a while. 7 Haas, 26 points. 8 is now Kick Sauber, 16 points, all courtesy of Hülkenberg, who really impressed. 9 now is Aston Martin, 16 points, despite the fact that Alonso scored, and 10 Alpine, 11 points. So lots of the teams all across the spectrum scoring points, which is great to see. But why would we look back? We are looking to the front, and yes, we are ever so close, right? Forza Ferrari! Yes, so we still haven't obviously won a race, so that was the Constructors, the team championship, and here obviously with winner Piastri also setting the fastest lap. This is how the Spanish Grand Prix finished, so I hope you guys enjoy this exclusive race reaction. Obviously that safety car hasn't happened for many years. This is actually that it happened so late in a race, so spiced it up, and again you really expose that one of the worst obviously role models of a world champion, that Red Bull villain. But yeah, obviously we are very happy for the second successive and second podium of the season. We cannot wait obviously to start winning. This is actually our first Barcelona podium since 2017. So that bodes well, that on a track I didn't actually know we were doing that well recently, so that is great. Obviously in 2022 if Leclerc's engine wouldn't blow up, we would have won the race relatively comfortably. But yeah, overall a lot of positives to take, and now we've done so much racing, guys. We cannot wait to enjoy the Mediterranean coastline. One of the most beautiful beaches in the world can be found in this region, so let's enjoy it as the summer 2025 is very fast approaching. I hope you like this race on the 1st of June, my happy birthday and happy wedding anniversary, and also happy names day month. And yes, also definitely do check out the fastest lap as the F125 was released, and I can now definitely feel, sometimes how challenging but also how rewarding, it can be to drive the Formula 1 cars of this season. This was Jan, the Smiling Sun champion, Ferrari's biggest fan, as we are now second on the Constructors Championship, and